Okay, I'll call this regular council meeting of 2014-06-24 to order, and motion for approval of the agenda. Moved by Councilor Hewitt, second by Councilor Lane. Discussion, call the question. All in favor? Motion passes. And adoption of the minutes 2A, the regular council of 2014-06-10. Moved by Councilor Hewitt, second by Councilor Lane. Discussion, call the question. All in favor? Motion passes. We have three other resolutions here. Would council like to move them as a block?
Yeah, I'll move to receive the Health Select Committee meeting minutes of June 16th, the Committee of the Whole meeting of June 17th, and this Economic Development Committee meeting of June 9th.
Second by Councilor Hewitt. Discussion, call the question. All in favor? Motion passes. And tonight we have a delegation, Mr. Walker. Yes, sir. Get him a chair there, Rob. You comfortable there? So here's the situation. You've got 10 minutes and then 5 minutes for council questions.
Okay.
So thank you for coming before council.
Thank you for having me this evening. And what I'd like to say is, first off, I did send a submission in.
Yeah.
I hope you received it and had a chance to read it. And basically, I was thinking of coming here tonight to answer any questions and regarding the letter and our request that we be allowed to put some cones out to block parking on certain days. That would allow transport trucks to get in there. We're not sure how everything is going to settle out. I looked at the curving tonight. It looks very nice. I can see Water Street is progressing quite nicely. Quite pleased with that. But we're kind of concerned that in the summertime, when big rigs come in there, and by big rigs, I mean tourists or people who drive a big one-ton doodly like mine and park right behind my loading dock behind the liquor store, that we might not be able to back large trucks in there. And
That's a valid concern, but Councilor Lane, questions?
I'm quite sure this has already happened, but has been any request for them to do deliveries with smaller trucks?
I haven't specifically requested that of them. I know they, in the past, when I've tracked the trucks, they usually take goods to other stores, not just here.
Yeah.
And so they may offload in New Denver, they may offload in other places. So they try and maximize those trucks. That's what they're trying to do. They fill them right up, unfortunately. So
Councilor Hewitt.
No.
Councilor Hewitt.
I see that you're just going down to 1 day from the 3, correct?
That's correct.
And
Yeah,
as far as you know, that's...
we've modified the back end of the liquor store now. We've made every effort to take all the slack out of all of the other trucks so that we don't need any other time to block up the street there. So it's down to one week. We've had, apparently there's been a sign there for three days a week. Don't know who put it up. Don't know how long ago.
It's probably coming now. Councilor Hall.
Yeah, I guess everything sounds pretty reasonable. I don't know, so based on kind of what you said, if small vehicles were parked there, they might not be a problem?
It might not be a problem. The only thing is you can't guarantee that they'll bring in a little Honda Civic and park it there. And I'm not even sure that even parking something that small that would still allow. So big trucks are fairly long.
No, just if it looked like, I mean, a lot of municipalities will have spots that are designated for small car.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
We'd be open to trying things, but...
well, we'll probably have to know before they start painting
yeah.
Councilor.
I just have a question. I was just trying to look in here. On the sign that's currently there, it says between the hours of, I think, 9 and 5 or something.
That's correct.
Do you have any idea what the timing would be for?
The trucks are usually arrive between 1 and 3 in the afternoon, so the latest would be arriving at 3. And as soon as he arrived and backed in there, we pull the cones down.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd probably like to put them out first thing in the morning to prevent people from blocking our ability to back a truck in there.
Well, I want to say I appreciate your proactive approach here. I'm a great believer in trying things, reviewing it at an appropriate time in terms of how successful we may have been, and I think that putting the cones out in the morning is probably not a bad idea in relative terms, and then people get used to the idea that on those days there's a reason, because the liquor store is pretty active.
It is.
And if you can't get the liquor into the liquor store, somebody will probably complain about that. The other issue that was brought before council at one time was taking your loading bay and turning it off on an angle so that the truck drove in and then backed in on the angle. I didn't measure it all out, but it was one of the other considerations to avoid that situation. However, maybe this is the short-term solution.
Yes, if this could be the short-term solution, I wouldn't mind looking at something like that in the future. But as I've just taken over the building,
Yeah.
and I've just paid the taxes,
Yeah.
and if I'm
Yeah.
looking at a $20,000 bill to change a loading dock,
Yeah.
it's a little tight now.
Well, we'll just have to tell people that you want it changed, your visits to the liquor store got increased. Anyway, appreciate your approach here and being flexible and adaptable and working with the council on this issue.
Perfect. Okay.
Any other questions, councilors? Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, we're going to make a recommendation in 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So 4, business arising from the minutes. Report from the administrator.
Paving will be taking place next week on Water Street, some subsidiary areas as well of town, including Railroad Avenue. Public Works has been incredibly busy with preparatory work for that, and it does appear to be looking fairly sharp. I think the gas tax new deal agreement, I do require a resolution from council on question of the new round of revised gas tax agreements.
Councilor Lang?
I'll make the recommendation that council resolve to enter the new 2014 to 24 Community Works Fund agreement with the Union of British Columbia Municipalities.
Second.
Discussion? Ready for the question? Call the question. All in favor? Motion passes.
Daphne Hunter has been hired as a casual office clerk for 2 to 3 days a week to help the office through what is in tax season a fairly trying period and being short-staffed. It seems to be working out quite well. We do hope to see Deputy Clerk back at her duties before too long. Just a reminder of some important dates for Council. The Committee of the Whole meeting has been moved to, previously done, to July 10th at 7 p.m. That's a little bit of a change from the usual schedule, but everything else is as normal. And I've got some other recommendations in there pertaining to the just to point out on the conservation service that I have received feedback from regional district staff last week. So there's basically two routes you can go on that in the next item, and that's to participate in the proposed service subject to a successful referendum that comes in November, or that we do not participate in the new service at this time. It's really an either or decision, but it's a fairly tight timeline regardless.
So is that it for your report?
Yep.
Thank you. So on to 4B. Or no, 4C, right?
Yeah, I've got my order mixed up there.
Oh yeah, 4B is the final approval of the ICSP.
There's a final draft there for you to adopt if you're ready to do so. We did make a few minor modifications between myself and the consultant on the question of the housing content, very minor indeed, but nevertheless there was a little bit of change. But essentially it's what was there before, but in all other respects.
I'll move that the integrated community sustainability plan for council be adopted.
Second by Councilor Lane, move the council do it. Discussion? Ready for the question? Call the question. All in favor? Thank you, council. 4C, proposed RDCK Conservation Service Bylaw.
I'll move that at this time the Village of Castle not participate in the proposed new conservation bylaw.
I have a mover. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Council Lane. Discussion. Councilor.
I thought a lot about this, and I'm not supporting it at this time. I think that at a later date, once we see how it rolls out, I would support this, but I don't feel that at this time there's enough justification for the citizens of Castle to participate in this.
Councilor Hall.
I couldn't disagree with you more. Places like Powder Creek, Campbell Bay, all the shorelines around here, the activities going on their lake, those are all critical issues for the residents of Castle. It's our front yard. There's also issues with the moorage issue that we're going to be facing in the bay, and a shoreline guidance document for this lake, similar to what they've just adopted in Slocan Lake, is a crucial piece of the peace and enjoyment of the lake by the residents of Castle. And that's just one small thing. But other areas, this would assist also with fire interface work. It's been done. There's been a lot of fire interface work done around the community. Nothing done on private land. This initiative could support fire interface work on private land. The types of projects they take on is really broad in scope, spread out. So it's hard to sit here and speak to any specific benefit. But I can tell you that the federal government and the provincial government have basically evacuated the building as far as giving us any guidance or enforcement or activity around the preservation and conservation activities. To me, it's a little bit of a form of kind of downloading around this where we're going to start picking up the slack, but I think it's too important of an issue for us to not pick up the slack on it and step in there where we can. It's a minimal amount of money, $10 per parcel, with a sunset clause of 10 years. So in my case, I'm looking at a tax payout of $100 over 10 years. And for me personally, I think what you're going to find in the sales part of this, or when they come out and when they roll it out to the public, what you're going to see is when people can weigh the benefits of what can come out of this versus what it's going to actually cost them. It's a very small amount of money. Very small. So if you own a lot in cash, $100 of your tax money over the next 10 years, and you've got to weigh that against the benefits that you can receive from that kind of service. And it's well worth the money. Hugely successful in these communities. We know from the independent third-party surveying that they've done in this area, there's a 60% support for this initiative amongst the population. And I think it'd be a big mistake if we opted out at this point. Right now, we get in on the ground floor. What the Kootenai Conservation Project did is they came to the regional district center of Kootenai. They looked at all the different areas, trying to figure out which ones would be.
I'm going through the bylaw here.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that you're either speaking for or against.
I'm speaking for. I'm speaking against the resolution.
Does that meet the definition of speaking against the resolution? Okay. Keep speaking.
So I was speaking about the benefits of the conservation. Sorry. Well, it's just it's on a roll. So basically, what it comes down to is to what I've seen, what's been demonstrated by the presentations that's been made to council. This is coming from the people to us. It's not a top-down thing. This is something that's been demonstrated, support and demonstrated in the community for this initiative. So I'm speaking very much in favor of adopting against this motion, but in favor of adopting or opting into the conservation program, because I think the impacts are relatively minor. It's not going to cost the Village of Castle a penny at this point. Participate in the bylaw, and you give the residents of Castle an opportunity to speak to the issue rather than us deciding. Why don't we leave it to the Village of Castle residents? Because they will have an opportunity. It will be put forward to them in a referendum. Costs us nothing. So, counter to what Councilor Leithwood is saying, I believe it's better to let the residents of Kaslo decide whether they see benefit or not, and not have us decide for on their behalf, because they will decide and it doesn't cost us anything.
Councilor Leafwood?
Wasn't it indicated to us, though, that if we didn't pay for the referendum, there's no guarantee that Castle would be included in the bylaw?
So, yeah.
Well, I thought what we were told the other day is that if we didn't, participate financially with the bylaw, then, or with the referendum, that there was no guarantee that we would be able to be part of the service.
No, there's
Just,
no
can we get some clarity from the CAO here?
Brian Carrollers did clarify for me that Council did not need to contribute to the cost of the referendum should it be held, that would be taken care of.
Okay. I had one other question. So the information, the polling of the people of Castle, where is that information?
The Kootenai Conservation Program has that information. They did a polling survey, a telephone polling survey. It's a couple years old, but they have that information.
Okay. Okay.
Any further discussion? Councilor Lang?
I'm going to speak in support of the motion, and I think that the taxpayers of the village got hit with a fairly substantial increase thanks to the construction of the fire hall. I think we don't need to be adding any additional taxes on them at this point in time, regardless of how seemingly minuscule that might be. I'm a little bit, with the amount of private property that the village of Castle has on Kootenai Lake, within the village limits, I see it as not having a huge benefit in that regard. And I think that's about it for me.
Councilor Hewitt?
One thing I want to clarify is the bylaw says $15 a parcel, not 10.
Correct, thank you.
And which way I want to speak, I'm torn. I agree with letting the public decide for themselves rather than us. This is an opportunity to do that. My concern with it is that it's $15 a parcel, and for those properties that are in Lower Kaslo that are built on 425s that are all under separate title, so if you had a 100-foot lot with 4 separate titles, you're talking $60, not $15. So I'm there because I really didn't declare a side.
Further discussion? Councilor Hall?
Yeah, if you analyze the taxes resulting on the new firewall service, Councilor Lang would discover.
Can you keep it on the topic here?
Well, I'm addressing this. He used the point to support the resolution stating that the taxes from the fire hall have put an increased burden on the ratepayers of the village of Kaslo. To that point, I want to say that if you look at the average house in Kaslo, say $250,000, their taxes are actually slightly lower under this new service and not up.
Okay.
So there's no big increase on taxation due to the fire service. So that's, whether that's a valid point, I'm not going to, there's a value judgment in that, but it's not increased taxes for the fire service that's hitting the taxpayers in Kaslo right now. There are 4 jurisdictions on Kootenai Lake, and we're one of those jurisdictions. And our responsibility to support and protect Kootenai Lake goes beyond just the municipal boundaries. That's a big body of water out there. So with those 4 jurisdictions, and that was the reason that Kaslo that I've stepped into this, because we'd be the only jurisdiction on Kootenai Lake that was not actually doing something proactively involving the people with their participation, where they get a chance to speak directly to the issue themselves, or whether or not they want to help support, protect Kootenai Lake or not. I think the lake is, we're seeing every day, it's under greater and greater impacts from development and new people coming into the area that maybe don't have the traditional values of some of the people who have been here for a little longer. And this is an opportunity to let the people of Kaslo speak to that. Another major factor in this is that we know from every experience we've seen, it's extremely important for us to start having more regional cooperation. Same thing happened a little bit with the economic service bylaw. If we don't create tools that allow us to collaborate with our neighboring jurisdictions around issues that are paramount importance to all of us, we're going the wrong direction. We have to implement tools and create opportunities to cooperate with the region in order to take on these big projects that go beyond our scope. Because the corollary, the converse of what you're saying, and you see no direct impact for the village of Kaslo, well, there will be a negative impact if we don't participate. Because that does not give us an voice, does not give an opportunity for us to have these kind of collaborative efforts that support what we all want, and that is to have a strong, viable lake. In our ICSP that we just adopted, when you go through that and you read on every point where they identify key issues for the sustainability of this community every time, environment and natural environment there, and conservation of natural environments there. This is an important issue with the village of Kaslo for residents. Very important. And I'm saying we should give them a chance to decide whether they want this or not.
Councilor.
We can't support, management of the lake through supporting the Kootenai Lake Partnership. Is that not?
What the Kootenai Conservation Program would do would be able to offer funding to the Kootenai Lake Partnership. Kootenai Lake Partnership has no sort. Well, they're just a society after life, and they would be one of the people. Definitely, you hit the nail on the head. They would be one of the organizations that would be putting proposals forward to the Kootenai Lake Conservation Program, and then they would be adjudicated based on all the different whether it's fire interface or invasive. We've got a lot of invasive species on private land that we cannot address. This would also allow some opportunity to deal that on private land. So they would be one of the people coming to the table with proposals. Right now, they've got nothing other than me and you and the graces of the community to contribute money out of our pockets. This gives an opportunity where the funds can be pooled on a larger scale and you can take on much more substantial, meaningful projects. Friends of Kootenai Lake right now are not, they're just a struggling, they're like another little organization out there that's trying to do something to protect the lake because they recognize that's a grassroots movement. There's a lot of things going on in Kootenai Lake that are going to negatively impact the environment, whether it's houseboats with no sandy dumps or you name it, they're out there. And these issues are coming at us like a freight train.
Any more discussion, Councilor Hewitt?
I just wanted to ask the CAO, in your conversations with the CAO at the regional district, did they indicate what kind of publicity rollout it would be to make sure that the voters were going to be fully informed? Because we know that at the council level, it sort of hit us, it went from a support in principle to we got to decide in 2 days and not given adequate time to sift through all the information. It actually didn't even make an agenda. It got thrown on as an add-on at that meeting. So I want to know whether there is a plan in place if we do, ultimately go forward tonight for a fact. Okay.
Well, Councilor Holland?
Yeah, the Kootenai Conservation Program has funds set aside, and they're prepared now to roll. The materials are being prepared right now. They're going to roll out rack cards, posters, publicity campaigns, the whole 9 yards. They'll be available information. They're going to directly, that's their baby, is to make sure that the electorate is well informed. So that information is ready to go. It'll be going into Area D. It'll be all around us if we opt out. This will be happening right around us. It'll be getting rolled out, and that's on their nickel. They're going to make that happen. They're going to do the best to make sure that this is a successful project. One of the reasons that Kaslo was sort of tapped on the shoulder about this is because they know from what they've done that this is one of their strongholds for support.
Any further discussion? So I've given this considerable thought too. Number one, I had somebody from the Allen Division approach me again because they have 5 lots where their garden is and 1 for their house. They have 6 parcels. So the parcel thing doesn't work for me. It may work in these Kootenays where those large parcels are consolidated, but it doesn't work for me there. Number 2 is that the Friends of Kootenai Lake just got $87,000 to fund their operation from the BC Real Estate Foundation. So it's not like they're broke. They're out there like everybody else, but it's not like they could even get more, I guess. But the point is they have been able to fund themselves to continue the work. I kind of agree with Councilor Lang. The amount of shoreline that we've got that we would be taxed for 10 years in order to finance these studies. In my other discussions with the CAO on this, we can sit back. We don't have to sign up for this right now. It can be joined at any time. It's not like if we decide as a municipality not to join up. I think we would have a better chance convincing people that this is a good idea if we actually see the results. And so when you look at Area D, and the other thing that kind of concerns me, and I've expressed this to Councillor Holland, is where is Nelson? Where is Creston? They're involved in this lake. And the other thing, it is a fully managed lake. The top end is dammed, the bottom end is dammed. It's operated by the Corps of Engineers. We have no control, relatively speaking, and now we're in negotiations on the Columbia Basin Treaty. And who knows, what's going to result from that issue. So I can't support this at this time. But I think going on, having been through this with a fair amount of detail, having talked to people in these Kootenays, other professionals that I've worked with in the past, I think we would be prudent to give it a year, and then when it comes back and we're a little clearer on just exactly how this thing is going to work, then I think we could inform people more. But so that's, any more questions? Any more discussion? Call a question?
I was just going to, as far as the city of Nelson and Creston's not on the lake, and they have a pretty strong conservation movement down already. The city of Nelson is on a not really a lake. It's where the river pinch off. But Area E and Area F are, and Area F is one of the partners in this because there's significant impacts on area down there. So has nothing to do with the Corps of Engineers or the Columbia River Treaty, but as far as having a program and creating a mechanism or an avenue for us to address issues that are critical. Our concern for this lake, I don't know, I don't quite follow the municipal arguments that it ends at our boundary line over there. It doesn't. It's out here. It's lake. It's what's going on over there. It's what's going on at Powder Creek. As an example, that $86,000 might sound like a lot of money, but if they decided that Powder Creek was a significant and this, I'm just totally hypothetical, but if they decided that was a significant part of our heritage around there, maybe they would turn that into some kind of park with some kind of administration, because that's a highly used area that has no protection or no steward at all. So those are the kind of things that we have the opportunity right now to allow the residents of Kaslo decide whether or not they want to participate. Or you can kill it here without giving them a voice. And I'm strongly speaking that we should give them a voice. This is an opportunity. It's not going to cost us anything. They're going to be educated on it. Why don't we let the village council decide? Why would we decide to make this decision for them? Well, we don't have to.
Councillor.
We didn't say we were killing it. We said at this time we were not supporting it, participating in the referendum. But as Mayor Leah said, and I've said, and Councillor Lang, not at this time. Let's see what happens. How does it roll out? And according to this article about the Kootenai Lake Partnership, they've done quite a bit of work, it sounds like. And maybe $87,000 isn't a lot of money, but they could also use that to leverage get more funds. So I don't think we're leaving it so that nothing is going to happen. And we're saying it's not important.
Are we ready for the question? Everybody's clear on what each councillor's had to say? Can I call a question? All in favor? Record your vote opposed?
Yeah, if you call for opposed vote, I'll vote. I would
Yeah, those
appreciate
opposed?
it. Yeah, thank you. And please record with a negative vote.
Okay. Okay. So the recommendation then would be that the Village of Kaslo will not participate in the proposed new RDCK conservation at this time. That's what's going to go forward then. All right. Correspondence. Letter dated 2014-0605 from Mr. Ken Free, CAO.
I'd like to refer this one works for improved. However, I haven't been able to understand that the village doesn't own a grinder and it borrows or hires one every year. could put some of these matters on a list.
So, what, Councillor Lang, sorry.
I might be able to shed a little bit of a light on the subject in that I was the one that poured the sidewalk initially. Yes, it's more than the traditional height of a riser on a set of stairs, and there was actually a reason for it at the time. I don't know, most of you remember, water used to flow down A Avenue and turn the corner and run right in front of the post office there, and so we made the sidewalk a little higher to catch that water and direct it to a catch basin for run. I don't think grinding the sidewalk down to an appropriate height is the way to go. I think the way to go would be to put some asphalt in there and build the actual road surface up so it's not quite an onerous step up, and I don't think it would take a lot of asphalt to do that because you can be making the street from side to side. But just a thought.
Could we give staff direction to discuss this matter with the village foreman and look for a solution? Because drainage is the issue, I think, especially given these more violent rain storms that we're having, where an awful lot of water, is getting diverted onto that road.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I thought we bought a grinder with
New Denver?
no, it was the MIA funds. What did we buy?
That was a sander.
Oh, it's sander.
Right.
It is different, right?
Then 5B. So would there be a motion or a resolution with respect to the request? Councillor Lang.
Well, I'll make the resolution that the BC Liquor Store be granted a license of occupation subject to final approval to temporarily corner cordon off a number of Water Street parking spaces once a week to better facilitate freight delivery. With understanding the village will not erect permanent signage or police the parking area ahead of or during deliveries.
Second by Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Nicholas.
I'm just wondering, so could we, like, how many parking spaces did you try? 3? Okay.
Further discussion?
Should we put that in the resolution? Just so that people don't think we're taking up too much parking?
You know what I'm a little bit concerned about here? I thought there was actually a bylaw passed about that area there. Did you come across that at all? Or? We could do that. I just wonder if we would be contravening the bylaw that resulted in erecting those signs there.
Well, we should, if we could rescind any bylaws dealing with this space right now, the beginning part of this, or at the end, whichever is appropriate.
You could do a subsequent resolution to make any necessary bylaws.
Okay, so on the question then, further discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes. A subsequent motion then?
I'll move that,
Councillor Holland?
yeah, that any bylaws regarding specifically parking around the liquor store previous to this date be rescinded.
Second by Councillor Leithwood. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes. Good. Councillor
Could
Hewitt.
I make a motion to refer the consideration of an annual fee for that be referred to committee of the whole for discussion?
Moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor Leithwood. Discussion, call the question.
Well, I was just going to speak against referral. I think for losing 2 or 3 parking places for 1 day a week for a couple hours seems like a bit of a tight committee hole with business. I don't see that it's really necessary. I believe that fee is not needed. That's not, I'm speaking against referral.
Councillor Leithwood.
Okay, well, it has, the CAO has indicated earlier, it could kind of open up a can of worms. And so what if other businesses are requesting the same thing?
The temporary to close 2 or 3 parking spaces for a couple hours for loading?
Yeah, like what if it happens on, further down the street? I just think we need to
That
have,
would be, I don't think that would be an unreasonable thing. I think it's a temporary thing. Very temporary, very transient.
I think it's good to have a discussion about it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? So, you made a motion of referral, right? Who seconded it?
Okay, I think.
Molly seconded. Ready for the question? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? I'm opposed. Approving opposed.
Just because you want to oppose something?
Well, I
You
mean,
sounded reluctant to oppose.
well, I mean, I'm sympathetic with this is what I call micromanaging, and if that was a major, and there's going to be changes there in traffic flow, direction, all this other stuff. So putting those signs there, if I remember correctly, there was a bylaw that resulted in those signs being put there, but now that's rescinded. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So I would say if it became a significant problem where everybody was complaining, then council.
As long as we have the formal license of occupation every time, that at least preserves the idea that there is a clear set of hoops to go through to get there. And if you treat every agreement as it comes, you can set different goalposts or fee structures.
But anyway, it's passed, and
I'm just wondering if we should look at our street and traffic bylaw, because, you know, there may be a bylaw attached to that sign back there, but we have had several requests on Front Street for different things about taking up parking spots. And so, like, maybe we need to consider that whole downtown area. Is it the same bylaw, but, you know, same conditions on Water Street and Front Street?
well,
So-
that's a good point.
I guess my remarks to council were mainly about the pressure for spaces on Front Street, not particularly Water Street, but there seems to be some pressure from some quarters to obtain parking spaces by license of occupation agreement.
I think it would be a good thing to open up if we can get through the current hurdles and take a look at the whole thing, including why the existing parking space that we've struggled so hard to get and that we pay for isn't being utilized.
Why don't we get back to the agenda, and you
Yeah.
guys should raise these at a future meeting or community hall, you can raise issues now.
Okay, so now we're down at 4C, UBCM, call for nominations to the executive.
Move to receive.
Call question, all in favor, motion passes. Email dated 2014-06-12 from Larry Badbury, Canada Day celebrations.
Move the authorizing resolution.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Holland, second by Councillor Leithwood. Discussion, call a question, all in favor, motion passes. Letter dated 2014-06-16 from Glenn Stewart.
Move the authorizing resolution.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Holland, second by Councillor Leithwood. Discussion.
I just want to clarify, the authorizing resolution, does that mean that we agree to waive the fees and we agree to waive the refundable deposit?
Yes.
So we should actually communicate that, I'm thinking, because otherwise what are we authorizing? I don't know, maybe I might be just trying to read the CAO's mind, and that's what he's meaning when he says authorizing, but I think you want us to spell it out in words, don't you? The reader to come up with a resolution, not just, authorize whatever it is, because
Okay.
it should be in the resolution.
I was trying to minimize my
Yeah,
words.
no, that's why.
So I'll withdraw the resolution, the second or agree to it, and I'll make another resolution.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move that the Kaslo Christian Assembly be given permission to use the gazebo on the date, August 18th to 22nd, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that the village waive the $25 rental fee and waive the $250 refundable deposit.
Second.
Second.
Further discussion? Call question, all in favor, motion passes. Okay.
I'll refer letters from the Premier and Minister Oaks about UBC appointments to the Committee of the Whole in July.
Seconded by Councillor Hewitt, moved by Councillor Leithwood. Discussion, call the question, all in favor, Motion passes. 6A, circulation package.
I'll move to receive.
Moved by Councilor Hewitt to receive,
Second.
second by Councilor Leithwood. Discussion, call the question, all in favor, motion passes. Committee and staff reports. RDC Director's Report, I think it's been circulated, everybody's had a chance to look at it. Minutes of the PEP meeting, motion to receive. Moved by Councilor Leithwood, second by Councilor Hewitt. Discussion, call the question, all in favor. Legal reports, Councilor Leithwood.
No.
Councilor Lang, Councilor Holland.
So I went to a workshop that council approved. It was Paul Bourne. It was called People in the Communities, about community engagement and furthering community engagement. A really good session. Learned some choice bits about the importance of collaboration and cooperation, especially with neighboring jurisdictions, and how that builds community and the importance of building community. It was kind of the core fundamental aspect of how things develop and gain energy, and the resulting, the whole idea, the whole synergy around when you have different participants participating in one effort, how the sum of their efforts expands beyond the potential around that. So it was really good. One of the great things that happened at that was I ended up sitting between Janice from North Kitty Lake Community Services and Linda LaFleur from Columbia Basin Trust, and we had some great chats about the business retention and expansion. I know I've spoken to council about this on numerous occasions, and I hope you guys don't feel blindsided by this, but I think council needs to take a position where we clearly support the mandate around doing business retention and expansion. There's been great work going on at SEDS. There's a North Cuba Lake Community Service Society that stepped forward to take on sort of sponsorship of administrating the BRE, utilizing Project Comeback resources, which they'll be trained by RDI, the Rural Development Institute, to do these sessions. Now, it's up to 4 hours per interview. The business, and right now they're planning on doing a broad-based scope interview process for businesses in the community. So I'm off topic on deepening, but I feel it's an opportunity for me to make sure that because of this meeting I had with Linda and Janice, they had a great chat. They clarified, they had some big questions between them that clarified they got to be party to participate in. And the bottom line is, at this point for you guys, is we have to be sure that council, if you're supportive, we've got to send a very definite message out there that we are supportive, because there might be a perception that we're not. So that's what happened with that. The next thing on the British Columbia Rural Network Summit happened a couple weekends ago, and by all sources, everything that I come across from the people that participated, along with the organizers and the review, even we got good kudos from the regional district at the board meeting down there about a very successful event, and they're very pleased to see Kaslo stepping into that place where we had the opportunity to host conferences and summits, small scale types, and that there's a good position for us. So we're well positioned now. We've established a reputation of the regional district as being a valuable place for a significantly important conference, and I believe that I would like to, at the end of the report, I would like to make a recommendation that we thank Randy Morrison Kaslo Institute for a great job on behalf of council. Regional District Board meeting on June 19th. The board had a fairly lively discussion that I think Kaslo really needs to pay attention to, and that is around use of these things and FOIP, Freedom of Information Protection Policy. And so the regional district right now is in the process of developing an in-depth policy around that. These things, and even your personal computers, if you own your personal computer, that's all subject to being scooped up by anybody that has a freedom of information. So what the regional district is doing now, and there's some technical challenges around this, they're trying to draw some very strict boundaries around what devices you use to communicate with any village business on. And where it's heading is that it will be inappropriate for you to do any communications from your personal computers on this unless you want those computers to be subject to being taken under freedom of information to garner out of any business you've done. It's complicated. There's a whole host of issues raised around that, but we should keep an eye on that. And I was going to suggest that council refer this, and it's another motion I'll make again. The council refer the issue of personal computer and FOIP to the committee to hold develop a comprehensive policy that would help direct the use of personal computers. During the break of that meeting, I was approached by Mayor Dooley regarding our position on the City of Nelson's offer of accounting services for small municipalities. I conveyed some of the comments that I heard council make to Mayor Dooley and requested that they might consider making a subsequent proposal to this council with a perspective that was a little bit more in line with what our view might be of the agreement, because I felt that their view was more kind of from their end, and my sense was that at our end we're a little concerned about what it might mean to have a large municipality managing our finances and what that might mean. That's it from our enforcement.
I have been, just for council's information, I have been in touch with the City of Nelson as per last week's committee of the whole meeting, and I'm just waiting to hear back from the CFO there with respect to meeting. So, if there's no question, I'll make a couple of resolutions, recommendations.
Do you want me to make my verbal report first? Or you go ahead.
I'll totally lose the fact of listening. So my first recommendation was that we write a letter of congratulations to the Castle Institute, Randy Morris, on the job well done on the British Columbia Rural Network Summit.
Second by Councilor Hewitt. Discussion, call a question, all in favor, motion passes.
My second recommendation was that council refer the issue of personal computer use and FOIP to our Freedom of Information Protection Policy to the committee of the whole to develop a comprehensive policy that would help direct the use of personal computers.
Second.
And this also could have an impact on the type of equipment that we purchase too. There's some consideration on that.
Moved by Councilor Hall and second by Councilor Leeds with discussion. Call a question. Councilor Lang.
I'm a little confused. We're asking staff to invest time in this issue, to come back with some recommendations. Is there a timeline?
No, I was asking them to refer to committee of the whole. The committee of the whole will have a comprehensive policy for direct use. That's something. So we'll, as a committee of the whole, will review this issue. And what the none of this is going to be is that we're going to get whatever the policy that comes out of the regional district. We'll work with that to get some feedback.
Yeah, I just, like I dug into this a little bit with Ray before we went. And my understanding from Ray was if you buy the computer, it's yours. You own it. You can put anything you want on it. It can be council business, personal business, love letters, whatever. And it's not unless there's a legal proceeding because you've broken the law. So
that's
not
correct.
Anyway, all I said, I need to see it in writing. What is correct? Because on my personal computer, I do a lot of village business, quite frankly.
And that would be subject to freedom of information.
Well, anyway, so it'll be good to get clarity on that. That's not my understanding.
That's why it's critical.
Yeah, so, but in terms of your workload, let me tell you, let's discuss it, some directions at the committee of the whole, but I mean, I think this is something that's going to take, some time to resolve. Okay, on June the, is that it? On June the 17th, what?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All in favor? Motion passes. Okay, so on June the 17th, the West Kootenai Economic Development Dialogue met at the Muir Center in Castlegar, and there was a review of the broadband conference highlights that the Community Futures put on down in Nelson, which Councilor Hall attended. Quite an interesting discussion with Mayor Dooley, the Mayor of Trail, and the CAO of Castlegar in terms of some of the issues they're dealing with in rolling out broadband into their communities. And it doesn't look like one size fits all for sure, but the institutional barriers that are, and now we've got to tell us, and if Jim remembers his comments, and sometimes when a community pushes to get broadband, one of the good results is that the large company comes in and does what the other company was going to do. That's a whole other issue. But what I shared with them was how Kin has really demonstrated a lot of expertise in how to get broadband into a rural community through mechanisms like air fiber. So I made that report available to them to circulate to the other communities. Terry McDonald got into the Employment Lands project, and the final thing was kind of interesting as Mayor Dooley talked about the industrial corridor issue, which is being rolled out through FCM in terms of a national strategy to identify a corridor from eastern Canada to western Canada that would be set up in order to facilitate power lines, pipelines, railroads. So it was kind of an interesting idea, because we're kind of getting locked into corridors, like we're not really being, as Councillor Hollins pointed out, this whole trend towards more collaboration and understanding. So I think the federal government thinks that if the provinces could communicate and collaborate on this, the cost of infrastructure might be reduced and that they would be more favorably disposed to transferring taxes. This committee meets quarterly and it was quite interesting. That's it. Any questions? Okay.
That's a good question of Councillor Hewitt. I'm just wondering the status of the Chamber of Commerce office. Because you're the rep on the Chamber of Commerce. Oh, I thought we voted that we were going to. Oh, sorry, it's Councillor McLean. I'm sorry, my mistake.
That's a good question, and I do not have the answer to it.
Okay.
Now that you've raised it, I will see what I can find.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're on bylaws.
7B, pet minutes and contacts.
Oh, right. 7B?
I believe so, aren't we?
No, you've done that.
We've done that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Can we move on to 8 then, the bylaws? Councillor Good.
I'll start with that bylaw 1155, Village of Castle Animal Attractants bylaw be adopted.
Move.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Leafwood. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move that bylaw 1156, Village of Castle Dog Control Amendment bylaw. I don't know. Be adopted. That's what it says.
That's what it says, yeah.
So moved by Councillor Leafwood, seconded by Councillor Hewitt. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move that bylaw 1157, Village of Castle Land Use Amendment bylaw be read a third time by title.
Moved by Councillor Hewitt, seconded by Councillor Lang. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move that bylaw 1157, Village of Castle Land Use Amendment bylaw be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Lang, seconded by Councillor Hewitt. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move that bylaw 1158, Village of Castle Financial Plan Amendment bylaw be read a first time by content.
Moved by, seconded by Councillor Lang. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move that bylaw 1158 financial plan amendment bylaw be read a second, third time by title.
Moved by Councillor Hewitt, seconded by Councillor Lang. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes.
I'm going to excuse myself from the next business item because it involves my employer.
And I'm going to excuse myself for the potential
Comment.
perceived.
Proceed.
I'll move that we authorize the garden license application. Yeah, I'll move that we authorize the garden license application for the Castle Jazz Fest Society.
Moved by Councillor Leafwood, seconded by Councillor Lang. Discussion, call the question. Record my vote in favor. Call them back.
Yeah. started talking before I left the room.
Okay, accounts payable.
Move to receive.
Moved by Councilor Lang to receive. Seconder. Councilor Hall. Discussion. Call the question.
I want to discuss,
Okay.
we want to move it on
The amount, right?
It's not a receive, is it? Isn't it?
It's
Is
just,
that what we do, is receive? I thought about
Well,
that.
normally,
oh,
He's
that's
authorized
my
for
mistake
payment.
in my read, that's my mistake in the read there.
we usually.
My apologies, yeah, you usually authorize it for the amount. So I'll get you the number there on the report.
31,423.48.
You want to amend your recommendation, Councilor Lang, for that?
I'm trying to find it now, I'm lost. Hang on. If somebody else can make it, I can withdraw my recommendation. Somebody else can.
He's authorizing it, authorizing for payment.
31,423.48.
Okay,
Councilor Lang amends his recommendation
to authorize
authorizes
payment of $31,423.48 for payment.
And the seconder was? Councilor Leith. Was it you? Or for discussion?
Doesn't matter.
Call the question. All in favor? Motion passed.
That was seamless.
No, I think somebody else did second it, I just backed up the bus.
Sorry about that.
That's me.
That's all right. Financial report. 2013 Statement of Financial Information. Full Sophie package.
I'll move that the 2013 Statement of Financial Information be approved as presented and submit same to the Ministry of Community, Sport and Cultural Development for its records.
Moved by Councilor Leithwood, second by Councilor Hewitt. Discussion, call the question. All in favor? Motion passes.
That's a formatting thing.
What's that?
I don't know why it does that.
What's that?
Question mark.
It's a the question marks are a formatting. I
Oh,
think
I
it's
see.
bullet points that get.
Oh, okay.
And 11B, the June 2014 variance report summary.
You have to speak to that?
Yeah. I think
Okay, this is a fairly small looking table, but it represents about 2 days' work by myself and Stephanie to get to this. Prior to us making the changes to maize, we have to take the kind of porridge churn out for maize and then put it all back together into departments so that it makes sense into percentages in terms of how far we're doing with department budgets. As you can see, we're not quite halfway through the year, and general administration's getting over 50%. General government, public works is fairly high already. That's because of the meeting into transportation wages quite quickly with all the work they're doing. And that, of course, is why you have parks a little lower. They haven't been doing as much with recreation so far. You'll also note that that we haven't paid too many bills yet with respect to this year's capital projects, but that will change as the year moves along. If you want to see the big detailed one, I can go over it at the next finance carry if you like. I don't fancy doing it every month because it's quite a lot. Until we've got maize up and running, but it was important to see where things were, and we managed to sort a few transfers that were going to the right places. So it was certainly a worthwhile exercise, and every exercise like this helps me understand a little better why things have been the way they are in certain respects. We're still not able to do a variance on revenue, which was a bit of a surprise for me. We've apparently never been able to have a running total of revenue coming in from taxes in the maize system. I'm sure there's just a little formula you can do to make it change that way, but we just have it automatically pegged at the maximum amount that we've budgeted for. So that the revenues don't quite. I can't get that real-time snapshot of how tax collection's going just yet, but that will change. We've got Temple Consulting coming in mid-July to take us through some of these things.
Councilor Hewitt.
I just variance column is the actual, correct? Is that?
Yes,
okay.
that's correct. That's the actual where we are right now, and the percentage is the percent utilised in the budget.
Further discussion? Who moved it? I'm sorry.
No one.
Yeah, it's
Just
I'll move for receipt.
Councilor Leaf would move for receive, seconder, Councilor Hewitt. Discussion, call a question, all in favor, motion passes. And a motion for adjournment, moved by Councilor Leaf. All in favor, motion passes.